Most people feel that life is something happening in time, a line that stretches from the past, through the present, into the future. We believe our identity is built from what happened to us before, and our happiness will finally arrive somewhere ahead of us. The introduction of The Power of Now challenges this basic assumption. It says, what if the past and the future are only thoughts in your mind, and the only place where life is actually real is the present moment, the now? This book introduces itself as a guide, not to more positive thinking, but to a completely different way of relating to your own mind. It invites you to notice that there is a constant voice in your head, commenting, judging, remembering, planning, arguing. Most of the time, you are so identified with this voice that you don't even realize it is there. The central promise of the book is simple but radical. Your deepest peace and freedom do not come from fixing your life story, but from discovering what remains when you stop being absorbed in that voice. The core problem: living in the head. The introduction describes the human mind as an amazing tool that has quietly become the master. Instead of using thinking when it is needed and then returning to a state of receptive awareness, we are trapped in an almost continuous stream of thoughts. This mind-made reality becomes more real to us than immediate life. The taste of food, the sound of the wind, the feeling of the breath in the body. Because we are merged with our thoughts, we also merge with the emotions they trigger. A single memory can pull us into a spiral of resentment. One imagined future can create hours of anxiety. Over years, this creates a background noise of dissatisfaction that feels almost normal. The introduction calls this habitual fusion with thought and emotion identification with the mind. It suggests that many forms of personal and collective suffering, from private depression to large-scale conflict, are rooted in this unconscious identification. The ego, a false sense of self. From this identification with thought, the ego is born. In the introduction, the ego is not just pride or arrogance, it is the entire psychological construct we take to be me. It is made of stories about who we are, what happened to us, what we deserve, how others see us, and what we must become in the future. The ego is always comparing, defending, and strengthening itself. It needs problems, enemies, and drama to feel alive. The ego cannot live in the now, because in the present moment, there is often nothing for it to do. In pure awareness, there is no story to protect. That is why the ego constantly uses the past and the future. It feeds on old wounds and imagined scenarios. When you feel an urge to justify yourself, to replay an argument, or to endlessly plan your perfect future, it is usually the ego at work. The introduction's message is that this ego is not who you truly are. It is a temporary pattern in consciousness, and recognizing this is the beginning of freedom. Time. Practical versus psychological. The introduction makes an important distinction between two kinds of time. Practical, or clock time, is neutral and necessary. You use it to schedule a meeting, catch a flight, or learn from past mistakes in a straightforward way. There is nothing spiritually wrong with this. It is part of functioning in the world. Psychological time is different. It is when the mind turns past and future into a place where you seek your identity and your salvation. You say, Because of my past, I am this kind of person. Or, when I achieve that goal, then I will finally be happy. In psychological time, the present is never enough. It is only a stepping stone to something else. The introduction argues that this mode of living creates a constant sense of inner lack. No matter what you achieve, the mind quickly moves the goalpost and invents a new condition for happiness. Stepping out of psychological time means discovering that the only moment you can ever experience life, or yourself, is now. Suffering, resistance, and the seed of awakening. Another key theme of the introduction is the nature of suffering. It suggests that pain itself is often unavoidable. Loss, illness, and disappointment are part of human life. But a large portion of our suffering is created by mental resistance to what is. We fight reality in our heads. We say, "This shouldn't be happening. It's not fair." Or, "My life should look different by now." This resistance adds a second layer of tension on top of the original pain. The introduction points out that intense suffering can sometimes break the spell of the mind. When you reach a point where you cannot tolerate your inner state any longer, something deeper may wake up. There can be a sudden recognition. If I can observe my pain and my thoughts, maybe I am not identical with them. This small gap between awareness and experience is the opening to a new level of consciousness. The book presents itself as a way to widen that gap, to live more and more as the observing presence, rather than as the turmoil that is observed.
Awakening as a shift in identity. The introduction briefly shares the idea that spiritual awakening is not about adding new beliefs, joining a system, or becoming better in the egoic sense. It is about a shift in identity, from "I am my thoughts and my story" to "I am the awareness in which thoughts and stories appear." When this shift happens, even partially, the inner landscape changes. Thoughts may still arise, emotions may still move through the body, external challenges may still appear, but something in you remains untouched. This does not mean becoming passive or indifferent. Instead, actions become simpler and more direct because they are no longer driven mainly by fear and psychological neediness. The introduction hints that from the state of presence, creativity, compassion, and intelligent response to life flow more naturally. The rest of the book will offer more detailed guidance on how to stabilize this new way of being. How to approach the book and your content. Finally, the introduction invites the reader not to treat the book as an object of debate, but as a set of experiments. Instead of asking, "Is this philosophy correct?" the suggestion is to ask, "What happens in my own experience if I try this?" For example, can you take a few seconds and simply feel the aliveness in your hands without naming it? Can you watch a thought arise and pass without following it? Can you fully inhabit one breath, one step, one sip of water? These simple acts of attention are presented as doorways into the now,